All right, grown-ups, it's just our time. I love the babies, but to help you, I gotta speak my mind. This segment's here to help you grow with book reviews, lessons, and things you'll be glad to know. If your little one's restless or looking to play, send them to my other playlist. The read-alouds there will brighten their day. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to Behind the Book, where we go beyond the pages to get to the heart of the story. Now, this week's topic is all about love. How is it that your child receives love, and how is it that they give love? Okay. And of course, we are using literacy to be able to do so. Today's Behind the Book segment is What is Love? By Mac Barnett, illustrated by Carson Ellis. And of course, if you have not done so, go check out the read aloud first so that you have more context and then come back here to get to the heart of the story. In today's review, I'll be sharing my glows, what I think was done well, my grows, what I think could have been better or just different, who this book is for, how to use it to have a more robust conversation with your little about the topic, and so much more, all in this segment of Behind the Book, where we go beyond the pages to get to the heart of the story. You ready? Let's grow. Summary in my own words. What is Love is a simple story of a boy on a journey to figure out, well, what love is. He asks his grandmother, and his grandmother is like, nope, go on an adventure and tell me what you find out. And so throughout the story, he asks these different people their opinion of what love is. And what he finds is that every single person has a different answer. It's a simple book that really makes you think about what love is and how it is that a person might receive it. And overall, it has made me smile page to page. And I'm so excited to go deeper into this review. Take home message, and was it clearly communicated for the target audience? So I would have to say that the take home message is that we all feel and receive and think of love in a different way. You ask one person what love is, and it might be something like cooking or dancing. And you ask another person what love is, and for them, it might be quality time. For me, the take home message was truly that love comes in a variety of ways, and it even honed in on the importance of understanding what love is for that specific person. Honestly, and this book didn't really go into it, but so that you can love them in a way in which they'll be able to receive, which is super valuable. In terms of age group, I would recommend this story for children 4 years old and up. I feel like the text is extremely simple and straightforward. The answers are also really clear, and overall, it is definitely a beautiful starter story when it comes to the discussion of what it means to feel or be loved. Who should add this book to their home library? I would say definitely parents who are trying to build more connection with their child. Sometimes children don't actually feel loved and they might not verbalize it, but they'll definitely show it through their actions. And stories like this one, or I Hope, which is our other read aloud for this week, help to remind children that they too are cared for. As we get into the discussion portion of the review, you will see so many ways that you can utilize this book as a resource to really connect with your child and to better understand what love means for them. But overall, if you are a family that has young children who can sometimes question if they fit in, sometimes question if they belong, or even if they're loved or cared for, I would say to go forward with purchasing this book and utilizing it to remind that child that, yes, I do see you, and yes, boo, I do love you. Okay? My first glow is probably obvious, but it is truly the adventure of the boy figuring out what love is. I always like stories that kind of take this detour to get an answer. And I really appreciate that there were all of these kind of different types of people, different occupations. Maybe they speak different languages or are in different industries, so on and so forth. And so kind of going through this journey to understand what love is and not actually getting an answer that lined up to what I think he was expecting, right? So when you ask the question, like, what is love? It's not the same as like, well, what color is the sky? Where it has this literal answer. Instead, through his journey, he understood that it's going to be different for everyone. And it caused him to reflect on his own journey to figuring out what love means for him. So overall, the adventure of the boy kind of discovering the answer is definitely one of my glows. My second glow is that the question is never actually answered from the boy, like, or the grandmother. And so there are all of these variety of answers throughout the story, but when you get to the end of the book and he ends with his grandmother, which he begins the story by asking his grandmother, what is love? She tells him, go figure it out. He tries to go figure it out. And then by the end, she just asks him, like, well, did you figure it out? But she never says, like, well, this is what love is and this is what love means. I think sometimes with children's story, honestly, they take away from encouraging children to be critical thinkers by just giving the answer. The book will start with the question and it'll end with the literal answer of that question. And instead, I would say that this book is more of a thinking piece where it provides enough information, super nuanced, but like provides enough information so that that child is able to come to their own conclusions. And that is definitely a glow for me. Grows or what I think could have been done differently. For me, this book doesn't actually have many grows. There is one page, however, that I don't feel like was clearly communicated as well as the other ones. And so I'm going to read that for you so that you have more context. I asked the carpenter, what is love? The carpenter smiled. Love is a house. A house? You hammer and saw and arrange all the planks, it wobbles and creaks, and you alter your plans. But in the end, the thing stands and you live in it. I said, I'm not allowed to use hammers. Once I busted my thumb. I don't mean a real hammer. I'm not talking about thumbs. It got busted real bad. The carpenter sighed. You do not understand. So the reading specialist in me has tried to tear apart that section to figure out, like, if the dialogue is the boy in this section and the carpenter in this section. And then there's also this hint of like the carpenter having his fingers wrapped. And I'm not quite sure with the second page that I read what it's supposed to mean. And that would be my only growth for the story, is the bit of confusion when it comes to that page. Discussion questions to have with your child. So there are so many ways you can utilize this book as a resource to hold a more robust conversation with your little one. The first would be the obvious in some ways of like, well, what does love mean to you? Throughout the pages of the book, you see this pattern of a boy finding a person and asking them what love is and them giving a very different answer. Sometimes it's an item, sometimes it's an action, sometimes it's a sound. There's so many ways that they could have answered this question, and I would bring my child into the fold using yourself first as the leader of the discussion or the initiator of the discussion so that the child feels more comfortable opening up. You can just have a talk about like what love is. And if we had a page in the book and you had to answer the question, what is love? What would be on your page? What items or what sounds, what smells or what feelings? What does that mean for you? And of course, you answer the question as well, and that definitely encourages this conversation. And trust me, you will learn something new about your child that you did not previously know, or students. I would also ask which answer in the book was their favorite. Did they connect most to the fisherman because maybe they love seafood? Did they connect most to the actor because they're super energetic and love theater? What part of the book could they resonate with? Because that will also give you kind of a insight or a clue as to how your child sees and views things. And then lastly, I will utilize this book to ask, well, how do you give love? So if these are the ways that you receive love, what does it mean to give it? And even go deeper in the sense of like, do you provide love the same way for everybody? Because as an educator, I can't love my students in the same exact way as I do my child, or I don't love my child in the same exact way as I do my husband. I love them all, but the way in which I show that love and show up for them in that way heavily depends on, well, the situation. And so bring your child into the fold in that way of like, well, what are the differences between how you love me and how you love your teacher. Not to pin, of course, yourself against the teacher, but to really get their mind going around love, not being this one size fits all thing, and the intentionality of loving a person how it is that they want to be loved and cared for. Wow, what a short story that really gets them wheels turning. This book had me thinking how it is that I show up for people. How is it that I make people feel loved? And what does that mean for those relationships? It made me analyze how I love people. It made me analyze if I should be doing more or even less. So funny how picture books can have such a huge impact on how you think about simple things like love. If you need more tools or resources, make sure you check out the Teacher Lady Speaks, which airs on Friday. And that is going to give you a crash course in teaching your children how to give and receive love. Okay, it's a topic that we hear about all the time, but never really get deep into. Lastly, if you do not know, I am the author and illustrator of 9 diverse books. And those beautiful, bright books made me think about how many students need to read my stories, deserve to read my stories, but don't have access not only to my books, but to books in general. And that inspired the Pay It Forward program, a super straightforward initiative where you donate what you can, we buy books, and we give them to the children that need them most. So again, thank you for joining me. Thank you for being part of this beautiful book loving and growing community. And until next time, remember to enjoy the moment or go be a joy in the moment. Bye.